Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pearce. This is a global geopolitical breaking news update whereby Iran has officially said they're going to pull out of nuclear talks that were due to take place with the US in Oman in the near distant future. It is not looking good for diplomacy. Let's just rewind a little bit. What has happened? Well, Israel, in response to Iran's further enrichment of uranium, decided that a tipping point had been reached last night and they were going to attack Iran's military and nuclear targets, facilities, personnel, scientists. So we've had military generals taken out, scientists eliminated. We have had nuclear facilities get I was going to say destroyed. We don't know. The battle damage assessment is not out yet, and there are some claims that actually the Iranians are claiming that the nuclear facilities are only affected on a surface level. They're actually much deeper than that, and so there's nothing to see here, type thing. But certainly military targets, air defense systems, and all sorts ammunition depots have been targeted. Indeed, here you can see continuous explosions taking place at Tabriz in Iran after the Israeli attacks. We hear a number of things. So this is Michael Weiss quoting here. So imagine having to restaff the IRGC brass, so the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps brass, and not knowing who is and who isn't an Israeli agent. Why is he saying this? Well, Mossad apparently did a lot of on-the-ground preparatory work and activity that took out certain facilities and targets, not from the air, but doing these sophisticated projects. And it sounds like missions. It sounds a bit like Operation Spiderweb to some degree. So Mossad on the ground. Israel spent years preparing for the operation against Iran's nuclear and missile programs. A security official told the Times of Israel, including building a drone base inside Iran and smuggling precision weapons systems and commandos into the country. The effort hinged on tight joint planning between the IDF and the Mossad intelligence agency. According to the official, Mossad agents set up the drone base on Iranian soil near Tehran. The drones were activated overnight, striking surface-to-surface missile launchers aimed at Israel. Does that ring a bell? Incredible stuff. Here, Clash Report reports that an Israeli security agency revealed that Israel lured top IRGC Air Force commanders into a meeting, then kept them in place before striking. Quote, we shaped their behavior and timed the strike to keep them there. Over 20 locations, including homes and offices, were hit in under 15 minutes to eliminate key personnel. Strikes were more successful than expected. Separate hits targeted nuclear sites, missile launchers, and air defenses. The intelligence build-up took a full year. So this is a long time in the making. It has taken place now. But we hear, as a result, and unsurprisingly so, I guess, Iran has officially withdrawn from nuclear talks with the US, reports Reuters. According to Wall Street Journal, Israel is expected to continue airstrikes against Iran over the next 14 days. So here we have The Hill reporting on Iran pulling out of the talks in Oman on Sunday. Iranian leaders announced today, after Israel's deadly strikes targeted Tehran's nuclear facility and military sites. What else? Oman foreign minister said Israel's unilateral attack on Iran is illegal, unjustifiable, and a grave threat to regional stability. So you are having certain nations backing Iran here, and then you even had Iraq claiming that Israel used Iraqi airspace to do the airstrikes. You have had Turkey sort of being much more aligned with Iran, but otherwise you have, well, we'll talk about some responses in a second because I think the US is particularly interesting. There doesn't appear to have been overt, explicit assistance from allied nations, at least on the materiel front. It seems to have been Israel doing this themselves, but as I reported this morning, it appears that Donald Trump was made aware, the Americans were made aware of this. So Iran has now said that the Israeli strikes have acted as a declaration of war. So Iran's foreign ministry and indeed their foreign minister Abbas Araghchi described the attack as a declaration of war and called on the Security Council to immediately address this issue. You've also had a UN Security Council meeting called, which will take place today, concerning what is going on in Iran. If we go back to have a look now at the US, well, we'll go to Russia first. Fascinating response from Russia here. And indeed, I think this is hilarious. So the Russian Foreign Ministry has said, quote, and without a tongue in the cheek and with no sense of irony, an unprovoked military strikes against a sovereign UN member state, its citizens, peaceful cities and nuclear energy infrastructure are categorically unacceptable. I mean, that is just absolutely taking the mickey. So Russia has strongly condemned Israel's military action against its ally Iran, describing it as a violation of the UN Charter. And there's that statement we just gone through. Israel's attacks have undermined and set back efforts to resolve the situation surrounding Iran's peaceful nuclear program. So this is where it starts getting interesting, because the other day, Donald Trump had a phone call with Vladimir Putin where they were discussing sorting out the Iran nuclear issue. And he saw Putin as an ally and sought to bring him on side and work together with the Iranians. Now the Israelis have gone and done this. This has put the US in an interesting situation, because initially, as far as I gather, and I might be recalling this incorrectly, but initially the US were less than ecstatic about what Israel had done, because the US had been working so hard to, seemingly had been working hard to get a diplomatic agreement going here. But I was wondering about this because I was listening to the radio and on BBC Radio 5 Live, they were just talking about how the US seems to have changed from being, anti-Israel doing this to be, yeah, okay, that's cool, well done Israel, this is awesome. And I wonder whether Trump has just an incredible skill at claiming responsibility for anything good, and also reacting to things in a way that doesn't align with any fundamental ideology, but congratulating the winner, if you see what I mean. So it's like, oh, this has happened. Oh, the results are looking better and better in terms of military and geopolitical results of the actual strikes on Iran, irrespective of the kind of morality, and just from like a geopolitical military point of view, this is going to be seen as good for the US and I presume for NATO and the West. Maybe that Iran's nuclear capabilities might have been set back, and their military capabilities and command structure might have been set back. So rather than still keep or maintain a kind of critical stance on Israel, I think Trump has probably gone, oh, actually, no, this is really good. Well done. Yeah, we were behind this all the time. And actually, Iran, you should have been doing what we asked you to do anyway. And I don't think Trump has any problem with pivoting at all, to just be seen as in charge of things or aligned with the success. Do you know what I mean? So, and I'm kind of like, I'm not criticizing him for this. I mean, this is part of his ability to be a to be a scapegoat successful leader, like to have the success he does with still having people behind him, is he just manages to manipulate perception so well and make it look as if, oh yeah, we were always behind Israel doing this, whereas I don't think that was the initial response. Anyway, here are some Truth Social posts from Donald Trump. I gave Iran many chances to make it. Well, I gave Iran chance after chance to make a deal. I told them in the strongest of words to just do it. But no matter how hard they tried, no matter how close they got, they just couldn't get it done. I told them it would be much worse than anything they know, anticipated, or were told, and that the United States makes the best and most lethal military equipment anywhere in the world, by far, and that Israel has a lot of it, with much more to come. And they know how to use it. So now this is looking like, well, we told you so, and they're using our stuff, and screw you guys, because there's more of that can get to Israel, and we're backing them up to the hilt. Whereas actually in the last couple of weeks there's been increasing tensions between the US and Israel, as they have with Israel and many other nations. Certain Iranian hardliners spoke bravely, but they didn't know what was about to happen. They are all dead now, all caps, and it will only get worse. So this is very kind of threatening rhetoric now from Trump, seeming to champion Netanyahu's strikes, Israel's strikes on Iran, and now saying, and there's more from this, there's more from where this came from. So there's already been great death and destruction, but there is still time to make this slaughter, with the next already planned attacks being even more brutal, come to an end. Iran must make a deal before there is nothing left and save what was once known as the Iranian Empire. No more death, no more destruction. Just do it before it's too late, all caps. God bless you all. And of course, now we hear that they've pulled out of those negotiations, so that seems to have fallen on deaf ears. He then later says, 2 months ago, I gave Iran a 60-day ultimatum to make a deal. They should have done it. Today is day 61. I told them what to do, but they just couldn't get there. Now they have perhaps a second chance. So he is certainly, well, I think here, saying that I gave them the ultimatum. They didn't come through on the 60 days. That was my 60 days I gave them. And so this has happened because they didn't do what I wanted them to do. So this is a form of taking the kind of plaudits for what Israel has done. It's quite incredible. But this is the statecraft of Donald Trump, is he will just manage to accept all responsibility for things that look good at the time they look good, and as soon as they look bad, he'll just say, "Oh, yeah, that's your fault. This happened because of you." Adam Kinzinger says yesterday, Trump scared to death of action against Iran. Iran, a paper tiger, getting bagged on the head by Israel, and today Trump takes credit like it was him the whole time. MAGA says so brave. So this is being noticed by a number of people now. Chris Murphy here, as a senator for the Democrats, has an interesting view. Trump is scrambling to spin this. Netanyahu wasn't trying to help diplomacy. He was trying to destroy diplomacy. How do we know? They reportedly targeted and killed Iran's chief negotiator with Trump. Wow. Okay. So the idea here is responding to CNN breaking news, says Trump says Iran must make a deal before there is nothing left in first command since major Israel attack on nuclear and military targets. But then saying, well, they can't really do diplomacy if Israel has destroyed the very people who were doing the diplomacy with the US. And Trump is scrambling to spin this, but I don't think he particularly is. I think he's perfectly adept at spinning these things in his favor. Now, one might say, I wonder whether there's an element of there being huge protests planned across the United States tomorrow called the No Kings protests. I wonder whether this is a very welcome distraction away from that for the United States government. And the latest is, so Trump urges Iran to make the nuclear deal with the next planned attacks. But we do have, a loud blast was heard Friday afternoon near a military base in Iran's western Hamadan province after a major Israeli attack. So there could still be explosions going off. I wonder whether Israel will still be carrying out some of their attacks on Iran, whether there are certain missions that are still taking place on the ground and whatnot. Israeli air raid sirens are going off because, of course, drones have been sent to Israel. Hours after the launch, Israel launched a wave of strikes on Iran. Israel's military said sirens sounded in the country's north. It's not immediately clear what's triggered the sirens in several communities and near the border with Lebanon. So there you go. But something I mentioned earlier in my breaking news update this morning was that the Iranians are quite good at rallying around a flag. So even though they are not universally very supportive of the Iranian regime, and there have been these protests over the years, when they feel they are attacked by the outside world, they come together and unify behind their leadership, and they are predictably doing that so far today, calling for much greater retaliation from their regime back on the Israelis. So that's certainly happening. Now, Western European leaders particularly, and other Western leaders, have called on de-escalation That's the main thrust of what they've been saying, the main theme of the responses. Germany's Merz, France's Macron, and UK Starmer have held a phone call on Iran, and yet the US seems to be becoming slightly more openly supportive of what Israel have done, and not so de-escalatory, which is, I think, an interesting switch, as sort of mentioned before. So that's where we're at the moment. I wonder what Iran will do. As I mentioned earlier today, and I was listening on the radio where people were talking about this, it looks like Iran's biding its time by sending over some drones that are probably not particularly effective. But last time they did that and then sent over ballistics. Now, has Israel hit Iran's ability to send ballistic missiles into Israel? Both the launchers, and I wonder whether the ammunition depots and indeed the manufacturing facilities of ballistic missiles may well have been hit. So Iran might find themselves in a position that retaliation becomes more difficult because Israel have carried out some successful strikes on them. And if I was the Israelis and wanting to do this, along with hitting the nuclear facilities and taking out the personnel, I would be absolutely looking at taking out Iran's ability to hit Israel back. So I'm sure that that's what would have happened last night. There is so much footage of explosions and huge clouds and munitions going off that I'm fairly sure ballistic missile launchers and ammunition will have been hit. But anyway, I'll keep you abreast of what's going on. Thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon.